question, did any of the funds did you inherit any of the funds when you took over? So you did still have the funds.
Oh, yeah.
I thought they took the house.
To my point about my bankruptcy and my student loans, I love it when things happen and what the enemy means for evil. I'm able to flip it. I'm like, I'm not about to go there and be set up and they ask me questions that I don't have the answers to.
Listen, I know sharing your story puts you in a vulnerable place. Sharing your story puts you out there to be judged, your family, the backlash. I already know. You don't even know where to go after you tell your story, but I promise you, after sharing your story, you will heal yourself and you will help heal someone else. Welcome back to another episode of Say Something with Cheré. I am your host, Cheré, but you already know that. A platform where we share life-changing stories and have impactful conversations. And today, my guest today is going to have one of the most powerful conversations that is needed in today's time. So please help me welcome Cicley Gay.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited for you to be here. I feel like you're a dope woman all around. Like, I probably met you one time on the carpet, and ever since then, I feel like I've been like your personal ambassador.
It was a vibe. I mean, the time that we first met, it actually stood out to me because you were so welcoming and warm. And so I'm glad to be in this full circle moment with you and get to know you even better and your viewers.
Thank you. No, you were a vibe. You're welcoming, though, to be in the midst of a meet and greet with that many people. And your energy was just so calm. And I'm sure everything goes on behind the scenes, but your energy was calm. Not only when you were interacting with me, but I watched you interact with everybody in the room. And I watched how you came up and did the speech, the opening, and you just let everybody know what we're here for and why we're here. So important. So before we get into all of that makes you a powerful woman, one of the things that I've been talking about on the podcast for the past month is women in leadership. It is at an all-time high, right? We're just rising. It's been going on, but we're just seeing it more and more nowadays. And so being that you're the woman in charge of a movement, Black Lives Matter, I wanted to do a little trivia with you. Okay? Because, for the culture.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so I would say there's no right or wrong answer, but I think it is. So let's just go with this. The first one. What is the #1 Black sitcom of all time?
Oh, God. Well, my favorite is Good Times.
Oh, my gosh.
So I really don't care what the real answer is because even my family now, I have 3 sons.
Yeah.
And they're like, why are you always watching this show? I am such a fan of Good Times.
I'm aging because I thought it would be Good Times. I literally watch it every night before I go to sleep.
Okay.
So I thought it was.
Is it like Everybody Hates Chris or something? What is it?
We should already know. It's the Cosby Show.
Of course. Of course.
I should have knew that. But
change the landscape for Black people and the perception of Black people everywhere.
It did.
Yeah.
But I thought John Amos did that for me. I mean, like, that daddy was everything, So, anyway, so the Cosby Show. We both get straight. So, what female artists of the 60s helped change the world? Musical artists.
Okay. There's so many. I mean, I'm thinking about Aretha Franklin.
Girl,
really? Yeah.
The queen of soul.
Yeah. And the more I learn about her and her activism and her support of the movement, the more impressed I am. She was so much more than just an entertainer. She actually invested in freedom fighters and helped enable them to protest and march.
And I didn't learn that until she passed away.
Yeah, really? Yeah. She's been behind the scenes making it happen for a long time.
Very vocal.
Yeah.
You couldn't shut her down.
That's right.
Now I understand why her and Patty was going at it. Aretha wasn't sitting down. Aretha was like, oh, you can come and get it.
I know.
Okay, so my third and final question is this. There's no right or wrong answer.
Okay.
I just want to know what yours is. What is the staple dish, soul food dish for Black households in the United States?
Oh, it's gotta be collard greens, right?
I would think so, too.
Is it fried chicken? Macaroni and cheese.
That's what I thought.
Oh, how am I wrong 3 in a row?
Girl, it's Black Eyed Peas.
Oh, New Year's.
But it's still not a staple like everybody does.
I wouldn't say that.
No.
Yeah.
But it was blackrestaurants.com and they came out with the poll, so they were in trouble. And I was like, Black Eyed Peas?
Yeah.
I would think macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
Candy yams, fried chicken.
Yeah.
All the stuff I don't eat, but
I know. I think maybe because of the historical nature of starting the new year fresh with the Black Eyed Peas, it's kind of a tradition and it means something to us. So I'll give them that.
I don't think it ever came true for me, though. Still, I'm more.
It's
not working.
Yeah.
It's not working.
That was fun.
Thank you so much. I thought that was cute. So now we know what Cicley likes to eat, okay? Collard greens.
You're fat.
Gotta be collard greens. So But not only are you a Black woman in charge today in leadership of a main organization, you're also a mom.
I am.
A mom of. Are you a boy mom?
I am. 3 guys that I have raised them without the benefit of a partner for over 20 years, and now they're grown and flown. But I often say, are my mirror and my compass.
What do they do?
The oldest is an actor. He actually was on Broadway when he was 11 years old, so he's been doing that since he was little. And the middle one is a lacrosse player, and the youngest plays football. I've really poured into them for the last 2 decades to ensure that they have everything that they need to soar, but also that their dreams are what guide them.
Where'd you raise them? In Georgia?
Mostly in Atlanta.
Oh, kudos to you, a boy mom, and you did an exceptional job with them.
Thank you. I love those guys. They keep me humble and keep me honest. That's for sure.
That's for sure. Dating must have been hard for you with 3 boys.
Yeah, that's such an interesting question. I don't get that one very much. I pretty much put that part of my life on pause. I mean, love is my superpower, and I've got a big heart, and so I have to be careful about who I let into it. And also, being the mother of 3 sons, I wanted to be very particular about who guided them, and frankly, who had the power to control our household, right? And when I was teaching them and modeling them about relationships, modeling for them about relationships. And so I very much put that part of my life on pause. But as an empty nester now,
they gone.
Yeah, they're gone. They're gone.
So you're back on the block. You're back on the scene?
A little bit.
Okay.
Little
Wait
bit.
a minute. Because I could do a little matchmaking here. Hold
Okay.
on. Wait, are you looking for love?
Well, it's interesting. There's no dearth of opportunity to meet men. I got to say that.
I'm sure.
Right? I travel around the world and meet a lot of people. But a lot of times, I don't know, particularly as you mentioned, being in a position of leadership, what people's intentions are. I have to keep my circle very tight. I literally have been out and we're having a great time. And at the end, they kind of pull a little proposal out of their back pocket. And I'm like, oh, I thought this was a date. This is a completely different conversation. I can send you a proposal for my rate.
Exactly.
So if that's what this is,
yeah.
Right? So it's sometimes difficult to determine people's intentions and if they're really here for me. And I got to be really careful about protecting this big heart of mine.
Oh, gosh. I kind of hate that, though. Like, I have a friend who's the mayor, and she, in Metro Atlanta, and she has the same problem, like dating and getting to know people for herself, just love her and not her position and what she can do. So I imagine that's got to be hard. But as a single mom who has raised 3 amazing young men, like, it's time for that man to come and love you.
Yeah. So. I love Black men. I do. I mean, I'm a mom of 3 young men, right? I love Black men. I love the essence of Black men. I love the way the Black men move. I just, there's nothing like it. And I love love. And so I still have so much hope about the future for the next phase of my life. And for the right person who's ready to, ride this ride with me, I am excited about the potential of us coming together and building something even bigger.
Yes. So that's my prayer. I'm going to pray. They got some right person into your life that's going to help you, be your backbone, push you and protect you, because that is definitely needed. And love you.
That's right. That's right. And I love a lot of love to give. So nobody has asked me that question.
Well, that's I'm trying to get in your business. That's the only way you can say something, right? I'm sure you're out here and all you hear is BLM.
Yeah.
That's it. But there's so much more to you, that got you to where you are to be the woman to lead BLM today. So it's like, what does that woman look like? What has she been through? And what gives you those credentials? And so that's what I need to know, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other people like
yeah. And I do love that you started with the personal, because the reality is I didn't posture to get here. Service got me here. I worked in nonprofits and for nonprofits, frankly, behind the scenes for 25 years. So when I was doing my 5-year, my 10-year goals, I mean, I've always been ambitious. I never said I want to be the board chairwoman of arguably the largest civil rights nonprofit organization to ever exist. Was never on my bucket list or my vision board. It was just that I put one foot in front of the other and did the work. And, coupled with that professional expertise and my personal passion, I remember talking to my oldest son, my man of Morehouse. He's now married and has 2 babies himself. So I'm a grandma. Grandma. I remember him sitting in the corner of my bedroom when I told him that this opportunity was coming to me. There was a whole vetting process before it happened.
I was going to say, like, how did that get in your lap and what did that feel like? They came to you, they approached you.
They did. I had no idea. This is my 4th nonprofit board that I'd served on, but I've been, like I said, working behind the scenes for a while. I've been helping a lot of high profile folks build up their foundation. And I've also been a nonprofit for 25 years, either on the grant writing side, where I'm trying to help people get money to fund their nonprofits, or the grant making side, where I'm actually sitting and reading grant proposals. So you meet a lot of people that way, right? You meet amazing nonprofit leaders who are doing passionate, life-changing work, but you also meet funders who have the ability to invest and make a difference. And I've always found myself as someone who was kind of a vessel and could connect the two, the people who need it to the people who had it, and then also present those nonprofit organizations in ways that compel people to make a difference, right? So I had the contact, I had the Rolodex, right?
You sure did.
But it was never about me. Never about
No, when you work in nonprofit, it can never be about you.
Right.
Definitely. No.
Right.
Anybody spent 25 years in nonprofit is like, girl, it's never about you.
Yeah.
And you raised 3 boys by yourself.
That's right.
You gave a lot to the communities.
Yeah.
So when that came, what did and when we say they and it, we're talking about Black Lives Matter organization, the nonprofit organization that Cicley is now the board chair of. Wow. So when you got this at your boys, because you've been there since 2020?
2022. Yeah, and which is a very important distinction, with the death of George Floyd and the groundswell of attention around Black Lives Matter and the movement where 27 million people marched in the streets. That was 2020. There was also an influx of donation to the tune of $90 million. And at that point, Black Lives Matter was not a formalized nonprofit at all. And I have to tip my hat, despite the controversy, to the leaders of the organization at that time, because no one expected to be in this position. If you are an organizer, a community leader, you somebody who's been in the trenches fighting for Black people, and you get $90 million, right? So I'm someone who has understood and built nonprofit infrastructure for a long time, and things like filing taxes, 990s, responding to state attorney general. These are the things I've been doing behind the scenes, building out a legitimate board. Those are things that are top of mind for me, but not top of mind for other people who really are just about the people, right?
Yeah.
So that money came in 2020, and a lot of controversy happened, a lot of challenges happened, a lot of decisions that I wouldn't personally have made happened, and then I came on board with a new board in 2022.
So when all the discrepancies came and all of the them being exposed for misuse of funds, when that came, did Black Lives Matter just shut down? Like, are the founders still active with the organization now since you've come in?
Good question. So there's another real important point of distinction I've got to make, and it's that when they founded this organization, nobody copyrighted the name, right? You and I can start our own chapter of Black Lives Matter right now if we wanted to, and is nothing we as the organization can do about it.
Do you acknowledge chapters?
It depends. If they are aligned with our movement goals and our impact goals and what is right for Black people, they are not about drama and controversy and theft or misuse of funds, right? If they have legitimate leadership who understand that when you are a nonprofit, you've got to report to the IRS, right? If they are doing those things in alignment with the goals and vision of the organization, absolutely. In fact, what a lot of people don't know is that $25 million went right back out to chapters out of that 90, right? It's on our...
No, we didn't know about
it's on our... So we've also built for people, it's a lot of information. I love it when people fact check me. So if they go to blacklivesmatter.com/transparency, we put all the tax forms. We put where all the money has gone. We've demonstrated all of our assets. We've done, in the last 2 years, 2 independent external audits that have nothing to do with our organization. The firm came in and said, let me look at these books, and they have cleared us of those. All of that is available because as a nonprofit, it should be for public consumption. So
you've come in.
That's right. Since 2022, the Transparency Center has been built, and we are constantly adding to the repository of proof. I said I love it. Fact check me all day long.
I was going to ask you, what's been put in place now to deter the same thing that happened for the organization?
Yeah. So, one of my favorite quotes is, a lie can circle around the globe faster than the truth can put his shoes on, right? And so it's very difficult for us to constantly fight misinformation while also doing the work, right? I could literally...
You got to focus on something.
That's right. I could literally sit here every day and look at all the lies about me that have been put out in the last 2 years, and it can consume all of my time. So our position is that the best way for people to see that we are who we say we are is to do the work. Tell the truth and do the work. So the organizations now that have popped up, that are rogue, that are legitimate chapters, all of them, they're independent. of our organization, our collective organization, the 501c3 Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. We are the one holding the majority of the assets. We are the one that is blacklivesmatter.com. We are Black Lives Matter on social media with 3.4 million followers. And there are some chapters that have been beautiful and been in lockstep with us toward moving toward liberation for Black people. And there have been others that have been very, very difficult. I'll be very honest, I rarely say the name of the leader. In fact, I don't think I've ever said it publicly. There was a rogue organization that sued us and lost. There were a group of people from that organization that showed up at my house.
Black people?
That's been the hardest part. I was not ready for that. I was ready for the white people. I wasn't ready for the lies and disagreement and disinformation and disruption from our people.
Okay, so there's another chapter claiming to be Black Lives.
It's another organization.
Oh, or a whole other organization.
Yeah, and they formed in 2020 officially, and they had to sue us, right? So you can't sue unless you're a legal entity.
Yeah.
And so they had been operating, and in fact, we considered ourselves sister organizations at the very beginning. But sometimes, money and power can change people. And when I came into this role with every good intention, I remember the leader of that organization calling me, telling me to undo whatever document I had signed and to give them all the money. And I said, "Are you even a nonprofit?" I was at the airport. It was the next morning, and I said, "Are you even a nonprofit?" She told me no. I said, "Well, that's illegal, right? Right?" But I think it speaks to the lack of information around what nonprofit organizations are. For the record, just a week ago, that organization, it just came out in the news, they're under investigation by the California Attorney General for their taxes and for soliciting improper donation and not filing tax forms and reporting their funding the right way. So despite people's best intention around activism, I'm never going to question people's heart because I don't want people to do that to me. When you have a nonprofit, you have to have nonprofit leadership. And you have to have someone who understands that you are obligated to tell people what you're doing and obligated to report appropriately.
Yeah. So this is the same organization that also rallied outside your house. There were death threats made on you. Your son was home afraid.
Alone. Yeah.
Alone.
Yeah.
For an organization and you're doing all this for an organization who has done anything for you personally in your life. So why do you keep showing up?
Wow. The truth of the matter is, at this point, I can't quit. I have a lot to prove. I have a lot of responsibility, and we can't fail because there are a lot of people who no longer believe or trust in this organization and this movement. So to be yet another disappointment for our people, for me, is unacceptable. And I got into nonprofit work because I recognize that I have a lot to give. I say, I rarely say I'm a single mom, but I do say that I am a mom without the benefit of a partner because there's been nothing singular about the community that has undergirded me and my son. And I know, Martin Luther King is often overquoted, but he says service is the rent we pay to live on this earth. And so how dare I not use my life to give back when so many people have invested in me and the lives of my son? I love us. I really do.
It shows. Because right now you can be selling off with some man, somebody's son, living this lavish life.
I could. I love that you say that because I built a business before I got into this space. So I mentioned that, I've worked for nonprofits for 25 years. So in 2015, to be completely honest, I filed bankruptcy. I had $120,000 in debt, 120. 55,000 of it was student loan, undischargeable student loan. And there was a point in my life where I was like, I got to feed my kid. I got to take care of my house. I used a legal tool, right, to ensure that I was able to fulfill the obligations of my family and my needs.
I'm glad you said legal tool. And I don't want nobody taking that piece.
That's right. It's all over the internet. And people have said, I've done it 4 times or 5 times. And like, how you can't even do it 4 or 5 times.
You ain't 90 years.
Exactly. You have to wait 7 to 10 years, right? So the people that have taken this little nugget to further wreak havoc in the legitimacy of the organization have been really sad, especially when it's Black people. But there's a lot that is good that has come.
That's good. Okay.
So no longer did I decide that I was going to be pushed into a corner of shame because of that decision. That was the same year I started a business. And I said, you know what? I have skills and tools to give. And yes, I've been working for nonprofits and foundations, but I want to start a for-profit entity that actually stands at the intersection of cause and communication. So I started my own company called The Amplifiers that actually does that and has done that from 2016 all the way to 2022. And it's very successful. So the house I live in and the clothes I buy and the vacations I go on comes from my business. And I want to be very clear.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, I want to be clear. I did not get here to become successful. They chose me because I already was.
Girl, no, tell them. It's true. I don't know if they heard you. Like,
yeah, I did not accept the role as board chairwoman to get successful. They chose me because I already was. I have receipts going back years of organizations that I have changed, of investments in community that I have made, in philanthropic effort, investing in the lives of young people all over the world, in Kenya, in the United. So just because I haven't been in front of the camera, just because I haven't been yelling out at a protest and being on the mic doesn't mean that I haven't invested in community. I've been doing it in ways that have made a deep, deep impact, and I've been very successful from that.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I was wondered, how'd you get here and how are you able to maintain such a budget? Question, did any of the funds did you inherit any of the funds when you took over? You did still have the funds.
Oh, yeah,
They didn't spend everything.
This is a great question. So, before I came on board, I distinctly remember having a meeting. Now, I had done some work in Los Angeles. So this is how I started interacting with the previous leadership of the organization, Black Lives Matter, and also the new leadership. So we had attorneys. When there started to be a turnover of the organization, there were attorneys, there was a crisis management team, there were accountants. There were a lot of people that were like, what are we going to do about the next phase of this organization? And so they started actually vetting potential board members. And again, I'd been behind the scenes. We had a really successful campaign that my company did the social media and communications for. It's called Reform LA Jails. We put a ballot measure out in LA and won it with 73% of the vote to completely change the way that funding for jails and prisons is distributed. So to redirect that money towards mental health. And that was something that I did for 2 years, and they saw my work. They watched me work, right? And they got to know me. And as a team, a collaborative team that was working on the West Coast, we won. So they knew people knew who I was, right?
Early.
And so when they came actually to Atlanta, and we were sitting at lunch, I remember we were having this great lunch and having conversation. I said, why are you all here? At the end of the conversation, they said, we're here for you. And we're rebuilding the board of Black Lives Matter. We want to know if you want to be considered to be a candidate. And at that point, I said, well, all the money is gone. You want me to rebuild this whole thing from scratch? And they said, it's absolutely not. When there was a split in the organization, the leadership of Black Lives Matter, the foundation of which I am the board chair, actually put a significant portion of the funds into a money market account. They did purchase one property. We can talk about it.
The house. The house.
We call it the Creator's House. It's about a $6 million property that has accumulated significant interest since it was purchased. And they started building infrastructure, right? They hired a firm to be the management firm to build staff. So there was money left to the tune of $42 million. Remember, I mentioned $25 million went right out the door.
Yeah.
At this point, we've distributed over $35 million. So since I've been on board, there's been another $10 million that's gone out in grants to nonprofit organizations, not just chapters.
Okay.
Some other Black-led organizations that are working to advance lives of Black people.
Oh, okay.
So there was $42 million left, and that's what came out in the news when I took on the opportunity to be on the board.
That $42 million got that house and stuff.
Yeah. Well, the house is already purchased when I came on.
Right. I read that.
So as an asset, we do. And you know, you probably asked me about the Creator's House, but
I
didn't want to go there at first because I was like, first of all, are there going to be people protesting?
I thought they took the house.
No. So it's still an asset. But the first time I went, when I was brand new, I went with attorneys. So it's like, I'm not going here by myself. I don't even know what I'm about to step into, right? I want somebody to be documenting this. And I walked around and realized that the intention of that house, 21 parking spaces. It has a movie studio in the back, right? It has a garden so that we are investing in Black people building their own agriculture. We are having an event there that's coming up, opening it up to community. And this community organization is an art-based organization, and they're outfitting it with Black art. So it is not only somebody's house. It's not a place that someone lives or stays. It's essentially our headquarters.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the PR around it preceded the truth. So not only are we opening it up to community, we actually opened it up last year to impacted families, families whose loved ones were killed by the police, and they had a beautiful healing dinner, counseling, time together, bonding. See, this doesn't go viral.
No,
right?
this
right?
never gets out.
We also, to my point about my bankruptcy and my student loans, I love it when things happen and what the enemy means for evil. I'm able to flip it. We started an initiative called the Student Solidarity Fund. For the first time, we partnered with HBCU students and literally gave them
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, we had never done that before. And also started paying student loans of Black people. And I said, you know what? Y'all want to make it seem like I was frivolous and because I was trying to pursue the American dream and get my education and I had $55,000 worth of student loans. So why don't I, in this position, ensure that there are other Black people, particularly Black women who file bankruptcy at much higher rates than many other groups, don't have to be in this position again. So to be able to turn something that was a lesson for me, a flawed story for me, a challenge for me, into a program that impacts the lives of Black people directly, that money that went to HBCU students, that didn't go through the HBCUs. It was a gift card. They could use it for their books. They could use
it to the student.
Right to the students. They were many of them were living in their cars, waiting for housing to open up. And that allowed some of them to be able to stay at a hotel for a night or buy clothes or food. And again, it doesn't make the news, but part of the reason that we came to that program was because we opened up the Creators House for HBCU ambassadors, which represent a series of HBCUs, and they told us what the people needed. And we used that space for that. So
see, we need the house needs its own PR.
It does. There's a really dope influencer who was just there recently because we're about to come out with a podcast. Yeah, a couple of episodes have just started.
Are you hosting?
I'm not hosting it.
Okay.
We have more of a youthful audience that's posting it. But one of the influencers came in. His name's JJ. He's viral. He's so smart. He actually said after they were doing the podcast in the studio area, can I just walk around the house and show the people what this is about? And he did. And he took his camera and was like, y'all, this is like a board meeting table. And this is, the garden. And these are the parking spaces. This is like headquarters. It's not simply a place that someone just stole a bunch of money and decided that they were going to live in.
Exactly.
It didn't happen.
Girl, take all my hats off to you and my wigs. Like, and I don't even wear it, but it's like so it isn't just that little bit alone, I would add, to give the audience your plan to regain their trust. Before you even do that, though, have you regained the trust and the support from even celebrities, not just communities, but the big hitters and other organizations?
Yeah, it's a really interesting conversation. I mean, it's day by day, right? I think one of the most important things that we had to do, as I mentioned, was file our taxes. We had, and again, a lot of folks don't understand that nonprofits don't have to pay tax, but you have to file to show, where your money is going. In fact, you have very high standards when you're a 501c3 as it relates to how you spend money, right? So we had to get the foundation strong first before we started building programs. And a lot of people criticized the fact that we were kind of quiet for the first 2 years, that we weren't doing a tremendous amount of media. I'm like, I'm not about to go there and be set up and they ask me questions that I don't have the answers to. I was like, we need to build this foundation so that now when I do have conversations with people like you, it's easy.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling the truth.
Because you did the work.
I have the answers, right? So that's what we did for the first 2 years. We also had attorneys generals from 4 different states who did investigations on the organization. My name, although I was new, was on those letters. It was Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation to the attention of Board Chair Cicley Gay. So I cannot play around with ensuring that we passed through those investigations with flying colors. And we did. We opened up the books. We let them see. We gave them access to all the information that we had to instill transparency. So I think that goes back to your question about what do we need to do to instill trust. And it is just that. It's tell the truth and do the work. Can I answer your question about the celebrity piece?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really important that people recognize that, as I mentioned, I've been behind the scenes for a very long time working with and for nonprofits. And some of that work has been about fundraising. And some of that work has been about helping some high-profile people build their nonprofits. I mean, I'll be Susan L. Taylor from Essence Magazine is now my mentor. She's been one of my clients for years. Tina Knowles, for 6 years, was one of my clients for 6 years, her nonprofit, right? So, of course, I may not be, on their social media pages, but I absolutely am on their website demonstrating that I'm doing the work behind the scenes. So sometimes you may see me on red carpet at galas and events, and I had received from some of the grassroots folks criticism for that. But what they need to know is those are fundraisers. Those are the ways in which nonprofit organizations build their budget and generate revenue. They bring people with resources to the table, they spotlight their programs, they collect donations, and then they go back throughout the year and they do their work. So being on a red carpet isn't just about pomp and circumstance. It's literally about ensuring that there are people who have resources that are invited in to be moved and to change people's lives through their investment.
Well, you'll be damned if you do and damned if you don't.
That.
You spent the first 2 years quiet, and that was a problem. Now you out here, and now that's a problem.
Yes, well, you know what? I feel that in many ways, I was forced to start telling my story because other people were telling it.
We're telling them,
right? They say that, if a lion doesn't rise up and tell its story, then a hunter gets all the credit, right? It's an African proverb I remind myself of all the time when I've started to be more public facing. And I'm like, you're not going to tell my story about me without me. So thank you for calling me out so that now I can tell my testimony. I can use it as an opportunity to educate folks about what to do, what not to do, but minimally to tell you the truth about who I am.
And I love that you ain't scared.
No.
I love that you're not scared.
No.
So you talked to me on the carpet. I asked you, what are the initiatives? How do you plan to gain our trust?
Yes.
And what is Black Lives Matter today?
That's right. So first 2 years, getting house in order, right? Building out infrastructure, making sure that we had a strong foundation. After that, we decided it's time for a rebrand. As they often allow us to reintroduce ourselves. So as this new board, which we want to grow, there are only 3 of us on the board right now. And I want to be honest, there's been some criticism about the board being small. When you have a small nonprofit board, which is it's legal, you can start small, you can be agile, you can move. We've also had people within the organization that didn't have the best intention. So we had to make sure that we were solid and tight in terms of who was leading the organization. We also have to ensure that people who come on board to be on the board or staff recognize you're not just going to be doing the work. Oh, by the way, you might get death threats. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Or by the way, you might lose your job. I lost 2 clients when I came on this board or with my own company, right? Because of the publicity that had nothing to do with my work and legitimacy. They said, we can't take smoke. Like, they're coming for us. They're emailing you at work, So when you think about growing leadership and growing the board, there are tremendous amount of risk in simply being affiliated with this organization.
I don't think about that.
Right? So as a board, we've had to say, all right, we're going to stick with what we've got right now. We're going to build, and then we're going to grow. And we've decided as a strategic plan to focus on 6 areas of focus. And they are areas that people oftentimes don't believe that Black Lives Matter is a part of. We often say, yes, we are absolutely ensuring the integrity of Black life. We are fighting for justice for people who have died in the hands of state-sanctioned violence. But a lot of times, Black Lives Matter is only associated with Black death.
Yeah.
And now we are pivoting to ensure we're also affiliated with Black love and Black life. And so those 6 areas are frontline organizing, healing justice, policy, culture, and the areas that are my strategic focus, research and evaluation, which is 1, and the arts. So we are making strategic investments in all of those areas, both programmatically, through partnerships, and through grant making.
You got your work cut out for you. But I love that you're focusing on the key points that you see that is needed before you step out there in this organization. I love that you're keeping it small. Like, you are extremely smart in the way you're moving and running this organization. And if they don't see anything else, they should see that, because you could have jumped out here and been all about the rah publicity and focusing on the negative stuff. But you're like, no, the goal is to get this organization back up and running for our people.
That's right.
And show that we can do it. And it can be ran with excellence.
Yeah.
And that I applaud you for.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, Black organizations are held to a much higher standard, right? So we talk about this $90 million that came in. We talk about this property that was purchased. $90 million as a nonprofit doesn't even put us on the map in terms of the leading nonprofit organizations in the world. It's not even close, right? And so people say to me, you knew when you came on, people were kind of going to come for you, right? And I say to them, who is the board chair of the Boys and Girls Club? Who is the board chair of the YMCA? Let's get a little more controversial. Who is the board chair of the ACLU or the NAACP? Most people do not know because they recognize that as a board chair, my responsibility is a fiduciary responsibility. I have to build infrastructure. Now, I've come out as a spokesperson because I've been called out, right?
Yeah.
But that was not my intention.
That wasn't your intention.
No. I wanted to do the work behind the scenes.
And by you being on the board, nonprofits, you can be voted off, you can be fired.
Yes.
Voted in, voted out, basically. You don't own the company or the organization.
Thank you for saying that.
So,
people, and I don't always want to focus on the negative because I should say that there has been a groundswell of support.
But clearly
right?
you have, because you didn't make it this far with just negativity.
Right. I mean, there have been people that are like, we're standing 10 toes down because we've seen her work for 25 years. I just think it's important too that a lot of times I'm combating misinformation and disinformation. But there have been a tremendous amount of people who have been rallying behind us for support. And frankly, they've been waiting for this, right? They've been standing 10 toes down for BLM. They still wear the shirts. They say, the movement, yes, the organization, I don't know. But they're waiting for us to make good on the promises of their investments and their hope. Those 27 million people who marched in the street, I owe them this. I take it very seriously and very personally. And I'm really grateful when people give us the opportunity to tell the truth.
Oh man, I tell you, we feel like, I think every Black person felt like we belong. Black Lives Matter belongs to us. Like,
me too.
I didn't create it, but I feel like we owned it. We really had something that we were a part of and we owned and we were proud of. So when that came out, it was just like
so disappointing, right?
We can't never get it right.
Yeah.
So now that you just, the rebranding is just amazing. The structure, the infrastructure that you're building, the time that you're putting into it, the caring that you have behind it, the grace that you're extending to people that I'd be the nuck if you bug. You don't have time for that. You need to be on security. You need somebody to cuss them out. Because I could be on the cussing ministry.
I know.
Yes,
that could be our seventh pillar. Check you.
And I want to be over the cussing chapter. Anybody want to be on the cussing chapter? I'm in there. But so with that, all of that on top of you, as we're entering, or we are in the presidential race right now for 2024, and the first Black woman to possibly be our president of the United States, where do you stand, or BLM?
I love this question. So I want to be clear that as a board chair, I am entitled to my own personal opinion about politics. And then I have an additional responsibility of looking at the vision, the mission, the infrastructure, our stakeholders, and then creating a policy on behalf of the organization. It's a hard job, right? Because I have to say, not just what is best for Cicley, what is best for the people.
Yeah.
And sometimes what is best for me is not best for the most people, right? But I have to represent our organization and the good of Black people when I'm working with my board to make these decisions. So I've made it very, very clear the organization is a 501c3 nonprofit.
Okay.
We cannot endorse a candidate. A lot of folks don't know. As a nonprofit, you cannot, a 501c3, you cannot endorse a candidate. There are entities that are called 501c4s or PACs, political action committees. They still, under the IRS code, and this is like nonprofit wonky speak, they still can collect donations, and they can endorse, but as a 501c3, we cannot.
You can't even show support.
What we can do is we can show support of policy. We can tell the truth about who has the best policy for Black people, right?
Okay.
We can look very deeply at infrastructure. We can look at the DNC and the RNC, and we can say, we want to ensure that democracy is upheld and that policies and practices are put in place that reflect the will of the people, that people are legitimately voted in, not only appointed, right, or chosen. Because if it were someone else, would this be okay, right? So the reality is the organization is supportive of the policies that are best for Black people. And we recognize that, it was so dope that she came out recently with a plan for Black men.
I don't know about that plan, Cicley.
Really?
Because
it's not enough.
I why does our Black men have to be associated with marijuana?
I was surprised that was one of the issues, but the reality is, if you look at the statistics,
the men that she locked away because of marijuana, so maybe that's why.
Well, she has a stereotype. A DA. So I think as a radical organization, so this is what I'm talking about, the difference between the organization and accountability to the organization. We still say defund the police, right? We still say reallocate funding from a system that was built to completely demolish Black people into a culture of care. If somebody thought about policing, which started from slave patrols, then somebody can think about ways to really lift up and affirm Black people. We know the political system is a corporate capitalist infrastructure.
Yes, it is.
And so the marijuana piece, although it may not have necessarily need to be front and center, is something we can't ignore, because Black men are over-incarcerated for marijuana incidents far more than any other race, right? As much as we hate it to be true, when we look at the stats, it's true. So it was beautiful to see that she had come out with a plan specific as a Black mama for Black men. And so while we don't necessarily endorse a candidate, we do look at policies. We hold everybody accountable. We called Biden out many times.
Yeah, we all did.
Right? Even though the organization, endorsed the PAC, or the 501c4 that's affiliated with BLM, endorsed him at one point. But I gotta say, I'm a Black woman, right? And so I cannot underestimate the significance of this moment in time for us,
absolutely.
Right? And I also personally understand that Donald Trump is an imminent threat to our futures in many ways. I don't think that anyone is all good or all bad. But when I look at the policy, right, we're not choosing a life partner in terms of our spouse, right?
Well, considering Trump says if he get in, we don't have to vote anymore. So I think that we that's our partner.
I don't know if people have read Project 2025.
Yeah.
But he recently was talking about the fact that he wanted to demolish the Department of Education and standing 10 toes down on it. And also has talked about completely unfunding any schools that actually talk about Black history. It's truth, right? That this country was built on the backs of Black people, and that slavery is embedded in darn near every infrastructure that we have. So if you want to teach that at school, whether it's critical race theory or DEI or woke or all these buzz terms that keep trying to turn negative, they're coming for you.
Yeah.
Right? And that to me is an imminent threat. It's an imminent, there's still, according to a study by McKinsey, over $30 billion of unaccounted for diversity and education investment funds that was supposed to come after 2020. So remember when everybody was about Black Lives Matter, all the corporates, from, the sodas that we see on TV, the t-shirts, it was everywhere. All these companies were saying, they created diverse DEI department. Many of them are being dismantled brick by brick, and they're not making good on those promises. And if we have someone in office who absolutely does not believe in those things, even more of them are going to go by the wayside. So like I said, I'm a Black woman. I actually was at the event in Detroit with her and Oprah. I got a little email after I got out there, and it was like, oh, by the way, you got to get cleared through the Secret Service. The next thing I know, I'm backstage with about 20 women, and she walks in. She and Oprah walk in together. And so, I've been able to look at her in her eyes and have FaceTime with her and recognize that, like I said, not all people are all good or all bad, but if I'm looking about what's best for the majority of people who look like me, my personal opinion's pretty clear.
Yeah, because you don't really have a personal opinion. I just wanted to tell you that. But yeah, I think that's true. We need to be voting for the issues and the policies, not just the person, but the issues that are at stake for us.
I remember when Tyree Nichols was killed. Biden had Tyree Nichols' family come to the State of the Union that year. And he talked about being, Black men being pulled over by police. And he talked about the talk that many of us Black mamas have to have with our Black son. And it was a profound revelation that he had, that there were two systems of justice for Black people and white people. And I was sitting there looking at it like, you're just now learning about the talk? What a gift. What a privilege. Because my sons heard about it as early as 2 and 3 years old. If I would have been pulled over and had been, when my babies were in the car seat, they knew to keep their mouth shut, right? So it is ingrained in our people for so long. But I realized then that many politicians who have lived different lives don't have those same experiences. So we still have a lot of work to do around teaching the realities of what we go through.
Listen, we have a lot of work to do. Something negative, not really negative. I just wanted to go back to, I did see that Sojourner
Yeah.
So I'm from Toledo. So
Yeah.
I saw that came back up, but I thought that was dealt with like 4 or 5 years ago. But
Yeah, he was just saying. So you're talking about the leader of the Black Lives Matter Greater Atlanta chapter.
yeah,
So if you take it back a couple of steps, remember when the original founders of the organization decided to get BlackLivesMatter.com, they didn't copyright the name.
right.
So you have people who have started chapters all over the world. I have never met him. I do not know him. He's nowhere on our website. He has never partnered with the larger organization. Black Lives Matter Greater Atlanta is not one of our grantee partners. We've never vetted and looked at their books or invested in them. And yet, he had license to utilize that name, right? I mean, trust me, we've gone, as a part of that 2 years of work we were doing, we hired a trademark attorney and we explored whether or not it was possible. And we were able to get a service mark or trademark for our logo. So people can't use that. We were able to kind of lock down, the brand as much as we could. But the federal government says Black Lives Matter has been, injected to the American lexicon and you can't own it. Nobody owns it. So when we see things like that, and then there was a chapter also in Chicago that very vocally got involved in the Israel-Palestine conflict, it was really difficult because people call us immediately and say, well, why would you say this? It was not us.
So are you the one, is Black Lives Matter organization, the foundation today, prosecuting the Sojourner and the
Good question.
Chicago chapter?
Good question. No, we've never taken legal action because, trust me, the police and the government and the IRS seem to swoop in real fast.
Oh, okay.
When there's something that Black folks are doing wrong, particularly under the name of Black Lives Matter, there has been no one within our organization that has been legally prosecuted. Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. There have been investigations, as I mentioned, from attorneys generals, but our books are tight. And so there's been no theft on our side. There have been, I will say, decisions financially that are legal that I might not have made. I'm gonna give you an example. So let's say from 2013 with the acquittal of the murder of Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman, when he got off and Black Lives Matter as a hashtag started to formulate, no one formed an organization, but the leaders of that moment, the 3 original founders of the organization, who had been in the trenches working for Black people for a long time. It's why they were able to galvanize and get people. They did that work from 2013, 14, 15, 16, all the way to 2020 when George Floyd's killed, and they did it for no pay, right? So when you're doing that with your team, when you're doing that for free, when you're doing that for the heart of the people and the good of the people, and then in 2020, $90 million comes in, who do you pay?
Yourself.
You pay not only yourself, but you do pay also the people around you.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Who have been holding you down,
yeah.
right? So if your brother has been is a legitimate security guard, has been because you can't just trust anybody to be in your house and secure. If he has been securing you and has a company and has been taking care of your life for 7 years for free, who do you hire? I mean, let's just be real.
Yeah,
right?
You're gonna go pay your people.
You pay your people. So when people are very, very critical about there being one line of relationship when it comes to money for people who were paid in this organization, I have a lot of empathy for how that happened because we started the conversation by saying we got to keep your circle tight. It happens in business. It happens in politics. It happens in industry. You hire the people you know. You hire the people you trust. You hire the people who have stood 10 toes down for you for free first, and then you build out the organization. So I just ask people to look behind the hood and don't just read the headline when somebody says, the founder paid her brother for security. I would pay my brother too, because who else is going to take a bullet for me? You know what I mean?
Just be digging deep. These folks ain't thinking like that.
Yeah, it's true.
So after all of that, because that was some gem dropping, and you educated us today. So thank you for being transparent.
Yeah, thank you.
Answering the questions honestly and openly. But there's still somebody out there who just don't get it, Cicley.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they need more from you. They need to know who we trust.
Yeah.
Say there's another chapter that shows up tomorrow. Like, how do we know who to trust? Who is really a part of the rebranding Black Lives Matter? So
yeah. We want you to allow us to reintroduce ourselves. We have new leadership, and the way that you can see that is by visiting blacklivesmatter.com. And if you want to fact check me, I love it when you do. Go to blacklivesmatter.com/transparency. We've got government forums, independent audit. We also have ways to engage with us. This is the People's Foundation. So if you want to know about grant making, there's a form. If you want to know about partnership, there's a form. If the work that you're doing is something that needs to be elevated to the attention of the board and leadership, let us know about it. And make sure that you're following us on all platforms at BLK Lives Matter, because we are doing the work and we have a lot to prove and want to invite you in.
Thank you so much for coming on and to say something to the community and educating.
I said a lot, huh?
You did. Listen,
you.
It was an interview that I couldn't wait to have, or conversation, I should say, I couldn't wait to have with you, because like I said, since I met you, every time I hear a conversation, I'm like, because this is what's going on. There's a new board chair, and I'm talking off that little snippet on the red carpet, but it did a lot for me. It gave me hope, and it made me feel glad about our people coming back together. We actually now have something else that we can grab onto and support. Yeah, honestly. So I appreciate.
Yeah, people say I'm doing God's work, but you are too, because you're getting the truth out about organizations like Black Lives Matter and others, and the way that you have just undergirded me and supported me and wrapped me in love and opportunity as a Black woman cannot be overstated. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, that's the end of the episode. Until the next time, me and Cicley encourage you to say something.